Hello artists, welcome to your Firefly painting class. In front of you, you should have your canvas, a paper towel, a large brush, a small brush, a cup of water. For your colors, you should have purple, yellow, red, dark blue, and black and white. You do not have to have a plate for this class, but if you want to, you can. I just use a plate so you can see the colors a little bit better. There's not really any mixing going on, so you should be okay with that one. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're gonna do is dip both of our brushes in our cup, swirl them around, get them nice and neat for our painting class, and just kind of dab them onto your paper towel like so. For our Fireflies painting class, we're going to create 3 bursts of yellows, almost like 3 suns. 1, 2, 3. We're going to use our big brush and our yellow paint. So the first one, I'm going to make a little dot right here. And I'm going to start in the middle and just kind of flick out again, just kind of like sun rays going all the way around a bunch of times. I'm gonna go all the way around with some yellow paint, like so. So that left corner of the jar has some yellow bursts of light. Same thing for this one on the right. I'm gonna come down, give it a little bit of space, make a dot. And from that dot, I'm gonna burst out some light, just like sun rays going all the way around. Really getting it good shape. Getting a little close to the other one, but not too close. Second one. And third one, again, same thing, big brush, yellow paint. I'm gonna make a dot a little bit up and right from the corner and bursts of yellow all the way around, like so. I'll let these dry for a bit. I wanna go over all the bumps too, so if you see any bumps with your yellow paint, just kinda go over it and smooth it out. But there's 3 areas of yellow suns, little bursts of light from our fireflies. It's a good amount. And I'm working underneath the lid right here. All right, once you are done with those 3 bursts of light, you don't have to clean your brush. I want you to kind of go into the side of the white, so don't really mix your yellow in there, but just grab some white on your big brush that already has yellow in it. And you're gonna outline, so you're gonna go around your jar with a little bit of white added. It's gonna create this kind of vanilla color. So I'm taking my big brush, I added white to it. I'm gonna make a bubble around my jar. Then I'm gonna go back to more white again. Be sure you're not mixing your yellow in there. And just kind of color the rest by just adding white to your big brush. You don't want it to be too bright. I already feel like this might be too bright, so I'll go back and add white to it. You just want a nice vanilla kind of background. So really light yellow where it looks like vanilla ice cream. If it's having a hard time lightening up, let it dry for a little bit and then go over it with the white, excuse me. And be sure again you're going over any bumps. You want a nice smooth background. And while I'm doing this, I'm giving those little bursts of light some time to dry before I go in there and get any colors close to it. So just more white, filling up the space. Getting it nice and clean. And then once I'm done, I can start adding some more white to my brush and painting the 4 sides of my canvas. So all I did was finish off the yellow and just add white to my big brush. I didn't wash my brush, so a little bit of that yellow and white are working together. And again, if it's still too bright, give it some time to dry and then go back over it with more white on your brush. Just want a nice vanilla color. All 4 sides are all done. Make sure it's nice and smooth. You can go back and give it a second coat if you want to give it a little bit better coverage. Just be sure you don't see any of that white canvas peeking through. Paint up and down up here. Paint the sides. There we go. All right. Once you're done, you can go ahead and wash and dry your brush. If you're still working on this first step or the second step, you're welcome to push pause and come back to it. Come back to the video whenever you're ready. No rush at all. You definitely want to make sure everything looks nice and neat. If you wanted to go back and give things a second coat, you're giving things time to dry. No rush at all. All right. Once you are done, I'm gonna have you go in there with your nice, clean, washed and dried big brush. So wash and dry your big brush. You're gonna go into your dark blue. So your dark blue. And you're gonna make a line underneath the lip so you know where the blue stops with your big brush. And then you're gonna kind of go off to the left. You're gonna pretty much outline this bottom area. And all I did was drag my brush. Careful of that yellow. If your yellow and white is still really wet, you might want to give that some more time to dry before you get close to it. Should just take a couple minutes. You should be good. So I've outlined the bottom part of the jar, and by just dragging my brush. Once I'm done, I'm gonna get closer to my yellows, but I don't wanna touch them. So I'm gonna get closer to my yellows. I'm not letting the blue paint really touch, just staying a little bit out of its way. I'm just kind of painting in an up and down motion all around. Getting rid of any bumps again. Oop, got a little bit too close to some of those yellows, but it's okay. You don't want to intentionally touch the yellow paint, so do your best to stay away. All right. And once that is done, you do want to give it a couple minutes to dry and go back for a second coat. So mine is still wet, but you definitely want to give yours a couple minutes to dry and then go back with a second coat of this blue. It's going to become much darker the second time around. Again, mine is still wet because I'm just kind of continuing on mine, but I want you to go back and give your blue a second coat so you get a little bit of a darker blue. If you feel like it's still not dark enough, because you do want it to get a really dark blue on there, you can let it dry for a second time and go in there with a third coat. Because the more coats you give it this blue, just the darker it gets. I'm gonna go in there and give it the coat again. Give it some drying time. I just went from one to the next. Give it a couple minutes. With mine, I would definitely go back and give it a third coat. So I would probably let it dry for a couple more minutes and then go back and give it a third coat. And again, you're welcome to pause this video and give your painting some drying time between each coat. Once you are done with however many coats you want for your jar, you're not going to clean your brush. You're going to find a nice clean area of your white paint and just going to dip your brush in that white paint. And you're going to start a little bit on the outside of your yellow and come in like so. So a little bit of white, a little bit of that dark blue that was already on there. I'm going to come in with a little bit of white and dark blue. So my big brush, I'm going to start out a little bit and come in towards my yellow. And if it seems like it's very harsh, you feel like it's a little bit too rough, you can always add some water to your brush too. So let me show you how. I can add water to my brush, tap it on the paper towel, and I can start on the inside and just kind of burst out from it as well. So I feel like if it's too rough, you want to smooth it out a little bit more, add water to your brush and start from the inside and work your way out. So I'm going to do the same thing on the second one. I'm just going to add a little bit of blue since I kind of took away some of the blue off my brush, a little bit of white. I'm going to come towards, again, it kind of looks like that same rays idea where it's those lights coming in this time instead of out. So I went all the way around, make sure I have room for my fireflies. So. I went back, a little bit more white, a little blue. And then I'm gonna get a little bit of water on my brush, tap it on the paper towel. I'm gonna go in there and do more white and blue and start from the middle and work my way out. So a little bit of water, a bit of white and blue. And your yellow should be nice and dry by now too, because we did the background and the dark blue, so we gave it plenty of time to dry. Just creating this lighter blue, I'm gonna go in there and add a little bit more. All the way around. So same with this third one. Some blue and white. Doing your sweeps of line coming in with your blue and white. And then more blue and white, sweeps of blue and white. Going out and adding water to it so it softens it a little bit. So now I'm going to start in the middle, burst out. And add water to kind of soften it up a little bit. Burst out so I see those feathery kind of ends. You want the middles to kind of be round. You don't want to have them be oval. You want nice round shapes. I can add water, tap it on my paper towel, and then go over that again, bursting out. Like so. So bursts of light coming in, bursts of light going out. And once you're done, you can wash and dry your brush. And we're gonna paint the lip area of our jar purple. And if you're still working on this part, take your time, no rush. I go in there with my big brush and my purple paint. I'm gonna outline the shape of it. Get it all purple. I would probably do 2 coats of purple as well, because you can still see some of that white canvas peeking through. Drag my brush, maybe get that shape back a little bit better. I would probably do 2 coats of that as well, so I don't see as much purple peeking through. While you're waiting for that purple to dry, if you feel like you wanted to go back on top of that darker blue, you can. And make it a bit darker. As you get closer to those bursts of light, you can kind of sweep in a little bit too. So if you want to go back and give this another coat while you're waiting for that purple to dry, wash and dry your big brush and just kind of go between them. Be sure you're sweeping when you get closer. So it kind of blends in a little bit better. Each little area. And then I'll definitely make it darker. Just clean this up just a little bit more. Maybe go back to some more white. Let's kind of make it work a little bit better. Those bursts of light. So then I can wash and dry my brush. And now my purple's a little bit more dry. I can go in there and paint that lid. Another coat of purple. Sweeping side to side. Perfect. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. The next step, you definitely want to make sure that this area is super dry, because I am going to go in there and, with a lighter yellow by just mixing white and yellow, and I'm going to create an even lighter area in the middle. So be sure these two areas are nice and dry. Be sure that you've really washed and dried your brush. And again, if you're not to this part yet, no problem. Take your time. You can go back and forth and kind of mess with the yellow, the blue and white, and the blue itself to kind of get it clean and nice. But once you're done, really clean your big brush. Maybe give it a hug by wrapping it around with your paper towel. The next step is kind of tricky. So I do want to have a lot of white and just a dot of yellow on my brush. So a lot of white and dot of yellow. I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to burst out when I do see some white blue. So I'm going to go white, a little bit of yellow, start in the middle, and I'm going to go out and over that light blue a little bit with my, you can see mine is still really wet, so I should have waited just a little bit longer. But I am not as patient as you should be. So white and yellow, I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm going to overlap over my blue and white mix a little bit. So I have this area where it's going to be at its lightest point with some white and yellow. Ignore those blue lines. Act like I was patient. And if you want, you can even add some water to your brush and go over those bits of white and yellow. Again, be sure yours is nice and dry so you don't get those blue areas in there. But I'm going to overlap over my blue and white with my yellow and white mix. But it's mostly going to be white with just a little bit of yellow. I'll go back and I'll be a little bit more patient. I think I might even push pause on the video, so I give some things some time to dry, and I'll show you the next two. All right, I waited for my blue to dry, and I'm back. Same idea. Be sure your brush is really washed and dried well. If you want to change your water, you can as well. I washed and dried my big brush really well. Do it again, just in case. Make sure my brush is really clean. And I'm going to go back to more white, a little bit of yellow, start in the middle. Just going to burst out and onto my blue and white mix. So a little bit of yellow, so you have this really dull, kind of lighter yellow. You're bursting out from the middle and overlapping over that blue and white. I'm just starting in the middle where my dot was before and just kind of bursting out from it. My third one, same thing. White with a little bit of yellow, start in the middle and burst out by overlapping over the blue and white just a little bit. And all the way around, like so. White with a little bit of yellow on my brush. I'm going to go back and give this another coat so I don't see that blue as much in the center. Perfect. All right, I'm going to wash and dry. And while I'm here, I might as well give my blue another coat. I want my dark blue to be really dark, so I'm going to go over it again now that it's drier and really darken it up. Again, sometimes you just have to give things more coats for it to be darker. Kind of sweeping in towards those outer edges. I don't really want to see a lot of my canvas peeking through, so I really want to make that dark on the inside of my jar. I can go towards those areas. Sweeping out that way, sweeping in that way. I'm gonna get closer to those bursts of light. I'm gonna sweep in and out. Here we go. All right. Get my brush a little bit wet, kind of dry. I'm gonna clean up this outer edge just a little bit by dragging my brush. So you can always drag your brush. So that's as dark as I want it. So I give it how many coats? 3 coats to get it nice and dark enough. If you need to go back and touch things up, you can. Be sure each kind of spurt of light is nice and round. Once you're done, you can wash and dry your paintbrush. And we are going to go back to this purple now that it's nice and dry and give it another coat. This painting is probably the painting that I've had the most coats with, but you do want it to be really dark and solid. So it's worth going back and touching things up and really making them a little bit cleaner with another coat. In just a moment, while we let this purple dry, we're going to add our fireflies on top. All right. Wash and dry a big brush. My next step is starting to build my fireflies inside of each one. For the wings, they are going to be kind of like a triangular shape made with gray, and the bottom's going to be kind of a U shape, and the head's going to be almost a full circle shape. So I'll show you how I build that, and then you're welcome to jump in when you're ready. So I'm going to do all the wings at the same time. So 2 here, 2 here, and 2 here. I'm going to add a little bit of white and a little bit of black on my brush, and you can just kind of mix them together on your paint lid if you want, or wherever works best for you. If you have a plate, you can mix them on your plate. For my first one, I want to make sure that you see it pretty well. Give me just a moment. So I'm just using my small brush, and I mixed white and black and made kind of like a medium pencil lead gray. And for the wings, I'm going to use this. I'm going to make triangular shapes. I'm going to go in here and make a straight line. I'm going to come out. I'm going to come down. I'm going to meet up with this one. And the other one is just kind of like a reflection of that one. Come down, almost like a bow tie shape. Get my brush a little bit wet. Then go back to that kind of pencil lead gray that I made. Not too dark, not too light. Kind of does have that bow tie shape. Same with this one, I can use that same gray. I'm gonna make a line, come down, and then like the mirror image of it. That one's kind of going to be going that way, and this one's going to be facing down. So I'm going to make, see this line going this way, coming down, coming back up, coming down. So those are the wings of all of the fireflies. I wash and dry my small brush. And again, if you're still working on that, no problem. I go in there with my small brush and my black paint. I did make sure I washed it, so small brush, black paint. And I'm gonna come in a little bit the edge and then make sure I come in a little bit on that side too. And then for the head, it's gonna come in a little bit more like that. So the bottom part's definitely gonna be a little bit wider than the head. I can even paint inside the head all black, because it's gonna be all black up here. Do another example. So I'm gonna come in a little bit, I'm gonna come out, like a U shape, and then the head's gonna be a little bit smaller than that. I can paint all of it inside of it. Same for this one, so the bottom is gonna be up here. Oop. Side to side. That, and the head's gonna come in a little bit more, make almost a complete circle. There you go. There you're gonna have little antennas. So you do want to make sure your small brush is at a point. You don't want it to be kind of feathery, like black. And off of each one, I'm going to start at the head. I'm going to go in and out, like so. So they're kind of going to the left and to the right. So a little bit that way, a little bit that way. This one, I'm gonna go that way. So I've created some antennas for all of them. Really cute. Go back and touch them up. Make sure they look nice and clean. I'm gonna touch up that gray a little bit too. So your gray and your black. Where you start with. I'm gonna wash and dry my brush. I'll let those dry for a little bit. And while I'm waiting for them to dry, I'm gonna go in there with my small brush and my black paint. Just a little bit, you can even pat some off on your paper towel. I'm gonna just go on the outer side of my jar and just sweep a little bit of black all the way around. Just barely pushing on my brush, a little bit of black, and pat some off on my paper towel. Go on the left side as well, just on the outer edge. Clean it up a little bit. And then the bottom part as well. Perfect, so I came in a little bit, just some sweeps of black. Clean out the edge. For my purple, be sure it's not too shiny. Mine's still a little bit shiny, but on the left side, I'm gonna sweep a little bit of black. A little bit of a curve to it, and kind of coming in the other way, like a backward C on this one. So a sweep of black this way, a sweep of black that way. Closer to the top, I'm gonna sweep all the way across. The bottom part, I'm gonna add some black to separate this part from this part. Then I'm gonna create two lines, one a little bit higher with the black, one a little bit lower. So you can kind of see two lines going left to right in the center. And wash and dry my brush. See some areas I want to kind of touch up now that it's a little bit more dry. Alright, I'll let those dry for a little bit longer. While the fireflies are drying, I am gonna take the back of my small brush, dip it into a nice clean area of white. Again, if you're still working on the other parts, you're welcome to push pause. I'm gonna make dots. Very random. And the harder you push on the back of your small brush, the bigger the dots become. So be sure you have a nice variety. And I'm gonna start on top of the dark blue first. The back of my small brush is not the roundest. You should have a nice new brush, so yours probably looks a little bit better. But again, I want to have tiny, tiny dots. I'm working more on the dark blue. Very random, but filling in that space nicely. You can be sure to have mini dots with your bigger dots. Fill in that dark blue space nicely. Some up here. So if you see a space that's a little bit too empty, you can go in there and make some dots. But again, a nice variety of big versus small. Perfect. And once you have a good amount of dots laid down, you can clean the back of your small brush. Then we can go in there and start adding some red to the bottoms of our fireflies. So I'm going to take my small brush, and I'm going to still have some yellow peeking through. I'm just going to go in there side to side. Maybe some areas that I feel like I got too thick with my black paint. I'm going to go in there and just kind of cover up most of it, but still having some areas of yellow peeking through. So there's the bottom of that one. Same with this one. I'm going to go in there and just kind of fill up most of that space just by going side to side with my brush. Same thing, small brush. Here my line got a little bit too thick. So I'm going to cover it up just a little bit and tap just some areas of yellow peeking through. And for me, one part that I would change is I do want to still thin out some of this line over here to the right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually clean my brush really well. Add a little bit of white to this area, just going to white it out. Let that white dry, and then I'll go over it with a little bit of yellow and white, and then once that dries, I'll go over there with some more black to line it out. But I do want to white that out for just a bit before I add anything on top. There you go. All right. And just speaking of white paint, we are gonna go in there and add some sweeps of white here and there. Very random. There could be some on your gray wings here and there, some on the black, some on the round areas, kind of working your brush a little bit more round. So all I did was add a little bit of white to my small brush, maybe patted some off. Just went in there in my wings area, just kind of added some sweeps of white. The head, maybe the bottom area. Can even go into the antennas a little bit too. My red was still a little bit too wet, so I let that dry and go back and do a little bit more white on top. Still clean it up, give it a little bit more life too, a little bit more movement. Over here too, maybe add some sweeps. Add some white over there. Maybe some, a little bit of a curvy line right here. Alright, so cute. I feel like that always makes it look a little bit cleaner. black line. Just be sure my brush is at a nice thin point. Clean it up like that. I'll go back and lighten it up just a little bit more later on. But otherwise, there is your beautiful Fireflies painting. So you have your dark blue, your light blue, your lightest yellow working on top. You have your really dark blue jar, so be sure to have it nice and dark so the white dots pop. You have your purple jar lip or lid, and then we added some black lines, and then it all kind of came together so nicely. I hope you love that. Remember, if you do want to go back and touch anything up, if a wet color touches another wet color, it's gonna mix and blend. So sometimes you just have to wait for things to dry before you build a color on top or next to it. Otherwise, you're all set, artists. Thank you so much for joining our painting class. I hope you had fun, and hopefully we'll see you soon.